Hi, everyone. This is Julie Bauke of the Bauke Group. If you're new to our weekly Facebook chat after my appearance on the Scott Sloan Show, welcome. I am an author, a coach, a speaker. I love being on the radio and TV, not just to be there, but to give people inspiration, kick in the seat of the pants, to get what they want out of their careers. While people are logging on, I'll tell you a story. I Yoga is one of those things that I know I ought to be doing, but I just can't make myself do it. I hate being in those classes and feeling like I am like a spaz. Just yeah. So I hired somebody to come to my house once a week to help me, and she came to the door and said, "Are you Julie Bauke and you're on WLW?" I said, "Yes," and she said, "You're the reason I walked away from the job I hated and started teaching yoga." And she said, I quit. I got a job as a bartender, and then I started working on developing my plan to have a yoga business. She said, well, I was at my bartending job. Someone came in and we got to talking, and he had on a shirt with a logo that showed that he worked at a local university. So I struck up a conversation with him. He hired me to come in and help his players. He was a coach to help his players become more limber and to get better at yoga and breathing and all that good stuff that goes with yoga. And she said, fast forward to now, she said, I teach yoga to all of this university's athletic teams. And that's why I do what I do. I never, if I had not found her somehow, I never would have known that story. So we all have our why. And for me, that why is I hope that I say something or bring up something or cause you to think about yourself and your career in a way that you haven't before so that you can have those moments as well. So you can have those moments that say, you know what? That lady I listened to on WLW, I finally decided to take action. Or she said or did something that gave me um, the hope and the inspiration to do something else. That's exactly why I do this. It's not because I want to be seen online or want to be seen on TV. I don't mind that, but it's a vehicle for me to get the message out that you are too awesome to be sticking with what you're doing now if you don't like it. If you like it and you feel like everything's rocking and rolling and you're in a good spot, that's great. Very few people are. But the caution here is even if you are in a job or a situation that you really like and really feel good at and valued and all that good stuff, that may have changed over the last 60 days, or that will change at some point in the future. I don't know of one person, I'm sure they're out there, I don't know of one person that started in one job when they were 22, retired when they were in their 60s, and loved every day of it. I know they're out there. But for most of us, that's not realistic because we change. And as we change, our desires change. And what makes a good job for us changes. So, some of the things that you can do to get as much career inspiration as you want and need. We're waiting. We've got lots of people on right now, but I want to just give you connect with me. Obviously, if you're on here, you like the Bauke group already on Facebook, which is great. Um, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And please follow the Bauke group on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's made it kind of tricky to ask people to do that, and we're still trying to figure it out. But if you can follow the Bauke group on LinkedIn, you'll get access to a lot of our great information. I have a podcast called The Evolved Career that's on all of the podcast platforms. And I've had some really interesting guests. And what's great is I'm getting even more exciting and interesting guests. I like to mix it up so that some of the people that I have on are regular Janes and Joes, just like me and you, and other people are more well known, people that we look at and we say, I could never do that, but yet there they are. So I'm trying to mix it up. And obviously, if you know of anybody you think could be a great guest, please send me a note on either LinkedIn or Facebook. Um, I'm on WLW, as you know, 10:35 every Wednesday morning. You can also go to thebaukegroup.com or my new website, juliebauke.com, and that's Bauke, and sign up to get our monthly, it's not monthly, we do about twice a month now, powerful career tips. These are the kind of things that will really keep you aligned and keep you in action when it comes to, when it comes to your career. And you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, do we? I mean, we've all learned that the last couple months. And so tomorrow may be a new day for you career-wise, or you might want it to be a new day career-wise. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section. On my screen, it's on the left, so it probably is on yours as well. And we'll try to get to your questions. What we try to do is tie in what I talk about with what I talked about with Sloane, so that you have a chance to ask questions, because his show isn't a call-in or a question show. So it's a chance to follow up and ask the questions that you're not able to ask in the format that we follow on WLW. So I do want to get to as many of your questions as I can today. We talked today about job search in the time of COVID. As I like to say, in the olden days, so what I mean by that is January and February of this year, which doesn't that seem like years ago at this point? No, it was a job seekers market. People who were employed, people who were in between jobs knew that they were going to be able to land fairly quickly, depending on what they were looking for and what their skill sets were. And that's always one of those factors. Even in a good job market, January, February, and before, if your skills if what you did was not in demand, you weren't going to have a fast job search. So there's not a one size fits all approach to whether or not you're going to have a short or long job search. It's very dependent. There used to be a saying that was, it's going to take you a month for every $10,000 you make. And that's old information that's not relevant, because there's too many factors there. Things you have to consider when you think about how long your job search is going to be is, how marketable are you? How in demand are your skills? What's your reputation? That matters. People will help you if they know you're going to get a job and make them look good. But if you're kind of just average or less at your job, it's going to take you longer, because people aren't going to be as helpful to you. How well do you interview? How well do you tell your story? How many hours a week are you spending on your search? We hear the saying that looking for a job is a full-time job. But what we found is that somebody's ringing my doorbell. I'm sorry, they aren't supposed to be doing that, and my dogs are barking. I hope you can't hear that. That it's a full-time job. Well, I don't know that that's true. There was a study done back when I worked for a large outplacement firm that 28 to 35 hours a week is about what it takes. But that's not 28 to 35 hours a week of hanging around online and applying for jobs. It's really 28 to 35 hours a week of productive activity. So if you're sitting at home spending 28 to 35 hours a week applying for jobs online, you're not doing it right. Like everything, there's a right way to do this. Like if you're a tax preparer, there's a right way to do it. If you're selling real estate, there's an effective way to do it. Same with looking for a job. And just hanging out online is not it. So what we talked about this morning was what do you want to think about when it comes to your job search? What are the things you want to think about? And so there's these sort of things to think about. People hire people. We get really caught up in this, I've just got to apply online. Hit, send. You put all these resumes out into the world and you think, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff out there and hope something sticks. Well, that's not a really good strategy in life in general. So I think it's not going to, it's not going to work in this way either. So stay in the game. This is one of the things I talked about this morning with Sloane, is staying in the game. And what that means is, don't just go, well, nobody's hiring, and so therefore I'm just going to not do anything until people are hiring again. In other words, until the media or some great power that be tells me that I can start, hiring again. And that's, yeah, no, don't do that. It's sort of like I compared it this morning to the holidays when people are like, yeah, nobody's hiring during the holidays. Those big, broad generalization statements are never true. And so don't ever fall into that trap. Depending on what you're looking for, there's always somebody looking for you. It's just going to take more time to find them and more effort to find them. So don't give up just because you've decided it's a bad job market. If you've got too many other things going on and you don't have time to job search, I get it. Um, and that's your situation. But don't give up because someone told you, yeah, nobody's hiring. Why are you looking for a job? Nobody's hiring. That's a sucker's bet. And you don't want to do that. So you have to stay in the game. Another reason to stay in the game is you have to be first in someone's thoughts when they go to hire, because people are going to start hiring. What's going on right now, and we're hearing, is that companies are really stuck on what should we do. We're not quite sure. We're hanging on, but we're not quite sure what the next 30, 60, 90 days are going to bring. So that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they're not going to be hiring soon. And so what you don't want to do is have to start over from ground zero and try to get everything going after you hear people are hiring, because there's going to be all those people who are ahead of you in the conversation. So you want to stay in the game. Now, maybe you were somebody who was looking for a job before all this started, but maybe you were somebody who during this, you were happy, things were going fine, then you lost your job. Or third group, maybe you've said, you know what, I'm not so happy, I need to go do something else anyway. So maybe you're in one of those three groups. My advice is the same either way. You really want to make sure that you are doing all the right things. Your LinkedIn profile and your resume are up to date. You have selected the feature on LinkedIn that says, I'm open to opportunities and here's what I'm looking for. Friends, be as specific as possible. Don't say, I'm looking for a challenging position because I'm really swell and I like people and I work hard and people like me too. That is just BS. And nobody hires people like that. And so what you want to do is get really specific of what your value proposition is and make sure that the things you're the best at, and just pick 3 or 4 things, shine and are really highlighted in your LinkedIn profile and your resume. Make sure you are going on LinkedIn every day and searching jobs. I know you can set up an alert so that jobs come to you, and they do a good job of kind of matching up your profile with jobs. Some of them may not be a fit, but at least you're in there seeing what's going on. And as you're reading these job descriptions and posts, say to yourself, why am I a fit for that job? We have something we call the T format. So think like this. Think about a T or a ledger. On the left, you want to write down, here's everything that the company says they're looking for, either based on what I see in the post or based on what people who work at that company have told me. So here are the things that we're good at, that they want. And then on the right-hand side, and just pick 6 of them, the top things that looks like are most important to them. You can usually tell by the order they put stuff in. Then on the right, you want to put what your qualifications are for that. So if they say 5 to 7 years in this, yep, I have 5 to 7 years. Proficiency in this, yes, I have 6 years of working with this system or this program. So you want to, what you're doing is you're matching. So you're saying, you want this, I have this. It's a really great way to approach an opportunity or a person. And so what it does is it says, hey, I'm what you're looking for because I have what it is that you need. Let me show you. Here it is. And it helps organize your thinking so that you can have that conversation. So you apply, you look for it. Let's say you find a job on LinkedIn and you go through that process of saying, here's what they want, here's what I have. Go ahead and apply. If you can do a cover note of some sort, you might even want to point that out, point the matches out. And then you're ready. What you're ready for then is you're ready for an interview. So we talked about interviewing this morning too. Yeah, it's so interesting what's going on right now, because companies and people are in the situation of having to, or potentially having to, offer and accept jobs where they've never met the people they're going to be working with in person, or they haven't even seen their workspace if they are going to continue to have a workspace. And so that's really a challenge. Before all this happened, both people and companies people and companies were really hesitant to hire somebody unless they've kind of been across from them or sniffed them, as I say, unless they've been able to kind of get their vibe in person. But we're kind of in a place where it's really hard to do that now. And so the video interview is the next best thing. The plus of a video interview is, I'm talking to you, but I also have lots of stuff laying around. I could have my resume here with my key points. I could have some of the pieces of information I want to make sure I share. And so you can almost use it as like your command room with all your good stuff there and maybe some motivational things on the wall. But what you don't have is the ability to just sort of get that vibe or get that gut feel about something that you do when you are sitting across the table from someone. We can't do anything about that right now. I hope that's going to change. But we are hearing that companies are hesitant and candidates are hesitant. Our clients are like, yeah, in fact, we just had a client. We had 2 clients land a job in the last week to 10 days, both great jobs. And the one guy, it was a relocation. And so he's relocating to this job that he's never met the people. But they did a great job of making it as comfortable and easy as possible with video calls. And he checked this company out with other people, and so he did his due diligence. So we are living in times that we're all trying to get used to it. So you may have to become more comfortable with making those decisions and making those judgment calls about people and opportunities without ever actually having been there. You could ask, another thought, realtors are doing video tours of homes. I know realtors who are selling houses without those people ever being in the house, but they're doing a really good job of doing video tours. And so maybe you can ask for a video tour of the workspace if they're back at work, and they may not be. So all these things are really, really very, very much unknown. So stay in the game. And by that, we talked about resume and LinkedIn profile. Make sure it's active and make sure you've got everything. And make sure that that you are applying for things. But, as I said this morning, only applying things for online and then stopping there is a sucker's game. You want to try to connect with people who work at those companies. And again, LinkedIn's a great tool for that. Or people who maybe have worked at those companies. They sometimes give you better information because they're not afraid to tell you the truth. And then stay connected to people. Really stay connected to people who are in companies or have careers that you think there's a way they can help you. Because remember, let's say that all of a sudden one of your dream companies, June 1st says, all righty, here we go. We're ready to jump in and we're going to start hiring again. Okay, we have these 3 jobs we want to fill. Where are we going to find these people? Well, the first place we always go, right, when we hire is, who do we know? Who do we know? Who have we been in touch with? In other words, who's top of mind? And I don't know about you, but my mind is so full of stuff these days that almost no one stays at top of mind unless they're actively looking to, unless they've stayed in touch with me, frankly. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that person stayed in touch. They were very appropriate, very professional, super impressed with what I've seen so far. It's going to be the first person I call. So stay connected with your core network of professional contacts. I also say there's not really anything wrong with sending out an update email. And you can even do a group email, but always put people in the blind list, the BCC. And you could even say up front, I'm sorry for the impersonal email, but I wanted to let everybody know what's going on. As you may know, I was furloughed from the XYZ Corporation. While I had great hopes that I would be going back because I had a great career there, it seems that it's dragging out longer than I would have liked. And so I'm looking to put feelers in the water for, to find out what might be out there, what else I could do. So it's really just sticking yourself out there. So don't be afraid to do that. It doesn't mean if someone calls you back and goes, hey, we have an opportunity here for you, and then you get called back to your job and you loved your job, it's okay. Just because you put yourself out there doesn't mean you're going to accept a job. It just means that you're staying in the game. You're ready for the coach to put you in. So that's super important, being ready to interview. And when you interview, what are the things that you're awesome at? I was texting with a friend this morning and I asked him about his girlfriend, and I had never met her, but I just remembered her name. I am awesome at names. I kid you not. I am so good at remembering names. Numbers? No. I told him, I said, I could add up a column of 10 numbers 10 times and get 10 different answers. So we all know what our things are. Therefore, I'm not going to take a job that requires me to be good at numbers. That would be stupid, wouldn't it? Because I would really, really be a poor performer. But I would, there are certain things I will say yes to, and same for you. Don't think you have to be good at everything. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make. Is they think they think, well, like, so for in my case, if somebody said to me, um, gosh, we'd really like to hire you for this job where you're going to be doing spreadsheets all day. Doesn't that sound great? I would be, no, no. Don't ever say yes to a job that you know you can't shine in. So but in order to do that, you got to get really clear in how you shine, how and where and in what situations do you really shine. Sometimes we're not good at seeing that in ourselves. So sometimes we have to know what it is that other people see in us. Because when people say to me sometimes, "Oh, you're really good at this," sometimes I think to myself, "Isn't everybody?" Well, I know that's not true. I see other people that are good at things, and I really admire things about them because I see things in them I don't have. What are those things for you? What are those 3 or so things that you're great at? People give you good feedback on. You hear about it in your performance appraisal. People come to your advice on, and get really specific. And that's your value proposition. That's part of it. And then be ready to tell a couple stories of you demonstrating those skills. And that's a great way to start planning for your interview. Another thing that we talked about in this time is staying in the game, being ready to interview, getting super focused, and really being good at following up, being good at, staying in touch with people, and go well beyond your computer. It's very, very easy to just la 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 when you're at home, and just think somebody's going to get a hold of you, but they're not. Connect with more people. I am more open to connecting with people now than I ever have been because I have more time. There are a lot of people with more time, but not everybody. Some people have kids at home making noise, and it's just hard for them to talk to anybody. So respect that and move on to the next person. I got some questions here, both from my lovely son who's listening in because he's such a good son. He gets access to me I always say I give him the 10% family discount for my services. What are, tips for online interviewing? Anything you may normally do in person, you should not do in an online interview. Wear pants, spread your stuff out, practice. Like, have you ever seen, there's so much, like a lot of people on the news now are, so many people on the news are doing these home interviews and they're like looking way up or looking way down. And I do it myself, but make sure you know where you're looking. Practice. What I would do if I had an online interview is I would practice doing it with a friend and say, is my bra strap showing? What does the background look like? How's my lighting? What are the things that you need to do? And practice with somebody and have them give you feedback. Have them tell you that if you're coming across, if you're looking at the right place, if your lipstick's on your teeth, do a practice run. But anything other than that, it really is kind of just like being at home. Be professional. It's so easy to get sloppy these days. And just stay as professional as possible. So I wouldn't worry beyond that. And then what are some good tactics to bridge the year gap? If you don't have years of experience, but you feel like you're qualified for the role, then you've got to do a skills match. So if someone wants 6 years of real estate experience and you've got 2, then you have to bridge that gap and show them why the things they're looking for you have. So think about it this way, okay? Every job has nouns and verbs. The nouns are like the knowledge that you need. The verbs are the actions that you take to get the work done. And so nouns are easy to learn. So if you are, let's say they're a real estate project manager and they're looking for somebody who is data driven, somebody who can manage projects at a high level, someone who can interact with C-level executives. All right, and you've done all three of those things in your job, but it wasn't a real estate job, pull those out and tell those stories, because those things are hard to find. You can actually learn the nouns of real estate, but the verbs are really what you bring to the party, versus somebody who's got all the real estate nouns, but they aren't very good at interacting. Um, um, they aren't good at interacting. They aren't good at project management, but they know real estate. So don't assume just because somebody knows real estate in this example that that they're necessarily going to be good at the things that you want them to be good at. And so when you interview someone as an interviewer, or when you interview and you're as an interviewee, you really want to make sure that you're talking from the nouns and the verbs. Just because somebody knows an industry doesn't mean they're good at it. It's funny, like, there's this catch-22 with like a president level job or a CEO level job that organizations like, well, I want somebody who's already sat in the seat. Well, just because they sat in the seat didn't mean they were good at it. You might be better off hiring a number two and that has all the capabilities and just needs the opportunity. If someone was a president, so what? Maybe the company they worked for promoted the wrong person. Maybe they were bad at it. So we do all this. We do all of this assuming about people. So you have to be able to know. You have to be able to know that it's your story to tell, and it's your goal to make sure that you are matching it up. And one of my coaches, Jeff, and I always say, someday we're going to write a song, write a book about how job search is like dating. You don't want a second date or a marriage proposal from everyone you go out with. Same with interviews. There are times when you're going to have an interview or a conversation with someone, and you walk away and go, yeah, I wouldn't want to work for that person, or that culture is not a fit for me. And that's okay. They may love you and you're like, meh, but that's okay. Because the other way around is going to happen too, where you're so excited about this and they decide that you're not a good fit for them. And this is where a lot of times we're like, oh my God, I'm never going to work again. It just becomes this like devastation. They've rejected me, because it does feel personal, because you're kind of in an emotionally precarious place when you're in a job search. But in my experience of doing this for over 20 years, part of the process of getting to the right job or getting to the prince or princess is kissing all the frogs along the way. So we have to kiss the frogs along the way in order for us to be able to recognize the right job. Because no, regardless of what you think, awesome as you may be, not every job is great for you, and you're not great for every job. And so when you commit, when you have the confidence and self-awareness to commit your time to finding the right job for you, then you will get it. And I know it's really, really hard sometimes to wait, but it's so important that you do. Are there any other questions? Go ahead and put them on the left. If there's anything else you want me to talk about. Any other questions on the left in the comment section? All right, well, we'll wrap up. It's 12:30, and you can always send me a message on the Bauke Group from the Bauke Group website. Go to thebaukegroup.com if you want to read about our services and programs and you would like to hire us to help you get the job of your dreams. I also have juliebauke.com. Listen to my podcast, The Evolved Career, so you can get tips on how to really rock out what's next in your career. Because I don't even know you. Well, Matt, I know you, and I already think you're awesome. But everybody else, you're much more awesome than you think you are. And I think that that's true of all of us. So go forward and be awesome, and come back and see me next week, and bring your questions and anything else you've got. And invite your friends. Let's have a party. See ya.